Welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for being with me today. My guest is an inspired story of a young person influenced by his grandmother and cooking in the kitchen in New Orleans. And he knew from an early age he wanted to rise up in this career. And he went to the Culinary Institute of America. And unlike a typical student, he went above and beyond. And he soaked up all the knowledge of all these experienced professionals that he met, professors. And every step of the way, there were new inspirations that ultimately led him to New York City and working for Danny Meyer's Union Square Hospitality Group in one of those restaurants. And this is all about key learnings and best practices and building a team and then opening your own restaurant. So now he's back in Jackson, Mississippi. The concept is called Elvie's, and he's working on opening up a historic restaurant that's been closed called the Mayflower, which is opening in a couple of weeks. So we talk about culture, we talk about leading a team, we talk about marketing and finance and all those best practices, but this is an inspired episode, so you're not going to want to miss it.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started. You've got this. Everyone has a birthday, and people celebrate birthdays in restaurants. Birthdays bring larger parties that spend 40% more on the guest check. Plus, most birthdays happen in the middle of the week when you want more business. Are you getting this? Larger parties, larger checks, midweek business traffic. Is your restaurant capturing this birthday business? Don't let these birthday celebrations go to your competition. The Birthday Club is a done-for-you service that handles everything, sending you all the birthday business. It's a piece of cake. Go to jointhebirthdayclub.com/birthdayrockstar to get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. So glad you're with us. Hunter, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
This is great. This is a chef episode. We're going to dive into the kitchen, and everyone has early inspirations, but I really love your story, and it has something to do with your grandmother and New Orleans. Take us there. Paint the picture.
Yeah, I live in Jackson. Our restaurant Elvie's is in Jackson, Mississippi. We're 3 hours north of New Orleans. And that's where Elvie, my grandmother, lived for most of my life. She died early the 2000s. But that was like my first exposure to the grand dining rooms, that culture that is so specific and centered around food in New Orleans. Just going to visit her, just being exposed, every family gathering, all the food. So that's really where I pull a lot of that from. And I just love there's so many cultures blended there, and that story is really defined, I feel like.
Is that Creole, Hunter, or can you tell us a little bit more about the differences between Cajun and Creole? Are those two different styles, but they are predominant in New Orleans? And then there's also this French influence, right? Tell us about all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's Spanish, French.
Oh, wow.
I think all of that kind of blends into these things. And then from my understanding, a spin off of that is Creole, which I feel like is more Spanish. I think of tomatoes when I think of Creole, which I think were introduced by the Spanish. Cajun, I feel like it's a blend of a lot of that French. There's some regions of New Orleans, Louisiana, where people are speaking a dialect that is not really French. It's not English. It's this blend. It's more like farming, living off the land. I feel like Cajun living off the waters. It's fascinating once you dive into the uniqueness.
It's a real foodie culture, though. Food is definitely the common binding element of Louisiana, and it is such a draw for people internationally as well as in this country. It's so known for such a, like you said, it's a mix or a melting pot of all these different cultures and nationalities that have come together to define the New Orleans style or Louisiana in general. So this is all inspiring to you. The shrimp boiling in the pot and all that kind of stuff, and the sounds and the sights. And so how old were you when you first got exposed to all this? Did you lend a hand? Did you help your grandmother cook in the kitchen, all that kind of stuff? Is that really what you were doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have the story. I think of I was at her apron tugging.
Okay.
She was teaching me, but I'm
Yeah.
running through the kitchen, playing, chasing my cousins and brothers. And I remember the sink always full of shrimp and leaning over, peeling the shrimp, artichokes in the oven. Those are the kind of
Awesome.
memories, like food is coming. I can smell it. I'm around it. The kitchen is like a place I want to be, and I will come back to and sit down with my grandmother and my family. Yeah, all the fresh seafood. So a lot of that definitely inspiring. And I guess really it led to that has such a defined culture and food identity. When I moved away to go to New York to learn to cook, I was missing the South, Mississippi. And I was like, well, what is Mississippi's identity? What are the foodways of Mississippi? And so just exploring that, and I guess from being exposed to that, took my own journey of what do I want to cook and what is my role and identity and voice.
So when you went to New York, was it to go to cooking school? Was it to, say, work in a restaurant, maybe apprenticing your way up? Like, how did you move your career along? And it sounds like New York was a launching pad for you.
Yeah, so I graduated high school and I went to the University of Mississippi. And summer before college, I had the realization restaurants are interesting. I want to cook. I want to know more about this as a career.
Yeah.
I've been exposed to the food that parents didn't love the idea of, hey, I don't need to go to college. I can just cook. I can just start working. I found hospitality management as a program that Ole Miss offered. That seems like it pleases my parents, checks that box, but also this is like a really great foundation. If I'm serious about owning a restaurant, all these business courses and whatnot geared towards the hospitality industry. Like
sound decision. Yeah.
So that was like, I guess, classroom education. I was really wanted to I still wanted the kitchen experience. I want to work long hours. I want to get beat up during a shift. Like I want the energy of the kitchen. So I just started cooking while I was in school. Did that all through college. There was a professor at Ole Miss who went to the CIA in Hyde Park, New York, and encouraged me. He was like, hey, if this is what you want to do, you should do this. So I moved to New York to go to culinary school.
Oh, so you went to CIA?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's an illustrious name, obviously, in our industry. Everyone's heard of that.
Yeah.
Full immersion. Now, that begs the question, did you or does that program at CIA expose you to all aspects of the business, like hospitality management, where you're not only learning culinary skills, but also financial management in case someday you want to run a group of restaurants or own your own? Tell us about that experience. Did you get exposed to all those areas?
Yeah, they definitely, I think when you build the curriculum, they obviously are thinking these people are going to run restaurants. They need to know the accounting. There's some legal stuff, menu development. But when you're 21 and you just want to cook, you're like, the accounting stuff is boring. So,
oh yeah, you're right.
And you're like, I don't need this. But now you're like, man, I wish I had that textbook where I took better notes.
I see the benefit now. Yeah.
Yeah. So they definitely, they provide it. It's there. I tell everyone, culinary school, I know there's a lot of opinions on go, don't go, work. You get out of it what you put into it. And I went up there and I was older than most people. I had gone to college. A lot of people were 18, kind of partying, doing their like off on their own for the first time kind of thing, which is totally great. But I had some years of experience and I was already committed. And so I stayed late and met with all the professors. I helped them with caterings outside because every 3 weeks you get a new professor. And so I was like, this is an opportunity this person's been in the industry for 30, 40, 50 years. Like,
yeah. Tap into all of that.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. I missed friends' weddings and family things. And I was just stuck in New York and just, I didn't see the sun some days. I worked when I didn't have class and vice versa.
That's initiative and ambition right there. You had goals and you wanted to just immerse yourself in a passion for what you really saw at an early age, but it's okay. And learning and soaking up all that knowledge from people that have been there for decades doing the stuff
Yeah.
that you ultimately wanted to do. So would you say any of those professors were mentors to you, took you under their wing and kind of showed you stuff? Because you clearly went above and beyond what the typical student was doing. You were staying late, you were volunteering to do things just because you knew it was a great experience for you. Tell us about any one in
Yeah.
particular that really stands out that just gave you something extra that just kept you going and inspired you further, maybe?
Yeah. I think there was one guy, Francisco Magoya,
Mm-hmm.
who but he was on the pastry side. And so I would walk through most of the stuff happens at the CIA in this massive like building and kind of this hallway, and there's all these windows so you can see all the classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I would always walk by his pastry class because as a culinary arts student, you don't take that many pastry classes. But I would walk by, we had the same glasses. Like I was just like, this guy is on to the next level. He had a little chocolate shop, and he was the pastry chef at the French Laundry for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So
No
I knew
kidding.
that.
That says a lot.
like,
Yeah, that says a lot.
yeah, I was
Yep.
like, this guy
Mhm.
just has it and has been there. And I would just watch him. And he ran the bakery, which is basically one of the classroom outlets for pastry students, but they also served a minimal lunch, and they needed some culinary arts students to work the line and do the sandwiches. And so I started working there, and I got to know him. And then he would let me sit on these pastry classes that were like levels like way above my head, and they're playing with all these liquid nitrogens, but just the precision and just the way he like approached everything. I remember we would clean the kitchen almost longer than the service. And then I think he went on to run Modernist Cuisine, and now he just took the job at Noma as the pastry chef. So he's always been someone just like that super admired attention to detail and just his knowledge and the way he approaches food.
And then when you find a direction that you want to pursue, is it a specialty at that point, whether you want to be working with pastry or you want to be working just in fine dining, or do you specialize? And does it all begin with knife skills 101? It all starts with processes and procedures before you actually start, and then you move on to making sauces. I'm just guessing. You tell us what it's like.
Yeah. So before you enter, you go culinary arts or baking pastry.
Oh, okay.
Two totally different curriculums. If you choose one or the other, you do get a little intro into the other world. Because
Gotcha.
if you're going to be a part of a restaurant, they both exist together. Start with fundamentals. That's the longest class. And that's knife skills, sauces. You're learning your way around the kitchen, just basic intro. You have a recipe, make this and go through different stuff. Definitely a lot of knife skills, you have a school lunch tray and you cut a bunch of julienne carrots and then some diced potatoes, and you take it up to the chef and they like compare the little scorecard and I still have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like an intro of like the regimen and the structure of a kitchen. And then I think a really cool thing, you move into a lot of specialties after that. You don't necessarily declare one, but
Okay.
3 weeks we do fish. That's fish identification, that's butchering, it's different methods of how you would butcher different fishes, etc. Then you go into meat class and you butcher animals, whatnot. Then you go to cuisines of America, cuisines of Asia, cuisines of Mediterranean, and you get exposure to different, in my head, it's different cultures and cuisines, but it's also the way people cook, the way you cook on a wok, you cook with different spices. So it's all these different exposures. And then there are restaurants on campus that you graduate to, and then you run the restaurant. And the cool thing is those restaurants order their meat and whatnot, and the butcher class that you were in fills those orders. So they're breaking down, this restaurant needs 32 pork chops, whatever. So they break it down. And so it's this big system, but yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow. What an immersion, right? Complete immersion.
Yeah.
And it sounds really focused, but you can also get a little taste of this and a little taste of that, to use a cliche.
Yeah.
That's great.
Totally.
Fantastic. All right. So what happened when you graduated? Does the school place you, or they have a placement office that sort of gives you career options? Did you do that on your own? Where did you land first out of culinary school, and what city would that have been, or what place?
So part of the curriculum, you do 1 year and then you go to an externship and you come back and finish. Since
Okay.
since I had some years of experience prior, I enrolled in the accelerated program. So I skipped the externship and I just rolled into the second year. So a lot of people will go extern and then go back to the place. They want to go to super fine dining, they'll extern and then take a job with that restaurant after. As I was coming up, I was like, I want to go to school. I want to do this. New York, cooking in New York was top of my list. If I could cook there, I can cook anywhere. So it was pretty top priority. I'm going to graduate and then move into the city and work. And so I landed at one of Danny Meyer's restaurants. Pretty sure it closed shortly after COVID, but it was called North End Grill, Tribeca area. But amazing, like restaurant to be in, and then just company to be a part of, and his culture, and really
God,
the education of that. And so I felt like I did all this cooking, and then that gave me this like, all right, now I can see this restaurant culture work and this company and how to treat people. And obviously he's very successful. So I started picking up, as I was cooking, I was watching the managers and whatnot. And
Interestingly, that restaurant group is obviously famous and it keeps expanding with different concepts. And Danny's well known as obviously a restaurateur par excellence, but also a book author. But with so many different venues or locations, did he spend much time in that restaurant that we're talking about? Did you have much interaction with him personally? Does he personalize the experiences with his people where he feels, or you working for him feel like it's all part of the same team? Is there training involved with him personally? Tell us about that, because that's interesting as well.
yeah, he definitely, it's not every day, but it's very tangible that this is a Danny Meyer restaurant. But it was always exciting. Like, okay, Danny's coming in tonight. He's bringing this person. That was always fun. When I was there, we got reviewed by the New York Times. And so afterwards he came and we had like a celebration. But I think the cool things, you mentioned his book, Setting the Table, which is amazing.
A Bible of the industry. Yeah.
I think he reached the point when I was there where everyone, like across all sorts of industries, people were reading the book and taking his, I think he called it his playbook, and they were taking that. And I think in some cases were like almost executing it better than his team was. And so he rewrote a chapter called Our Playbook, reprinted, gave everyone in the company a copy, and then had a book club, and you could go to the headquarters and have discussions and whatnot. And so that was cool to see him, like, not just in this corporate office controlling from up top, but
in the trenches with his people.
Yeah.
That's
like inviting
cool.
people to the vision that he has. And so, he was around. He was definitely a part of the restaurant.
When you went to that restaurant for the very first time, like every restaurant group is different, and regardless of people's experiences, in some cases you start at the bottom and you polish the silverware and you peel the potatoes, but not necessarily in every case. What was your early experience like? What was your role when you first started? What did you do?
First started just like the app garbage, but I remember walking in, it's open kitchen, massive wood burning grill, like at least 8 feet, and I want to work that one day.
Yes, I get that.
That's on my radar. And then there's a whole raw bar section. So I definitely worked some of that. And I was used to that. I knew that from Mississippi and eating oysters growing up in Louisiana and visiting. Definitely, I love the seafood. And I was just like, the more the kitchen and the kind of drew me in. It just felt. And I'll never forget, like on Friday nights, the big pass, you put the white tablecloth, the heat lamps come down. Feel like it's the movie scene where like the gym lights come on. It's like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, theatrical production. This is show business.
Like, this is cool. This is the prime time, and I was all in.
I love it.
The best.
How many years did you spend in New York?
I spent a little over 1 year.
Okay, and then you knew you wanted to return back to Mississippi.
Yep, I was dating my wife, and we had met prior, but I was like, I said that I'm going to New York, I don't have time. But we kept in touch and we were writing letters, and I was like, I don't really write letters to anybody else like this. And then I just started missing commute. Like the long distance was getting hard and old, and then I just missed Mississippi and all of that. I was like, all right, I'll move back. And that was 2015, I believe, in May.
Yeah.
So 1 year was good for me.
Did you always have in the back of your mind Elvie's as a concept, or did it take some time to develop that? Did you always know that you wanted to start a place and create your own business? When did that all begin? You mentioned 2015 was the turning point in your career, and it was almost 10 years ago. So what happened
Yeah,
next?
I think ever since, I got into this career, I've been very goal oriented. And I guess that's just, I don't know if that's just specifically in work. I think it's general. I just set goal. I want to go to CIA. I want to work in New York. I want to open a restaurant one day. And so I have like sketches and like journals and I had like recipe books I would draw in or write in on the subway home every night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's 2014 at the top is Elvie's and just notes and whatnot. And I think that was in that phase of like, I'm starting to miss home. What would this restaurant look like? What does it mean to me to open a restaurant? And it's interesting because I'm now learning. I feel like I did all that and then I hit checklist, have this company, and we're building this culture. And I'm now learning that I need to make those goals culturally and what are our values, what are our procedures. And I need to name those as I have our goals, my goals in the past. Because look, I made it. But if you don't know if you don't set the direction of where you're going, how can you measure if you're going in the correct way?
Yeah, staying on track, exactly.
Yeah.
They often use that airplane analogy that if you're off just 1 degree on your course, you'll end up hundreds of miles in the wrong direction. And it sounds like you approach this with a business mindset and that you had to put the procedures in place and systemize everything. Like you're very logistical and calculating about how you started.
Yeah.
But then there's that creative side, right? And I look at the website and it invites me into what looks to be a really intimate bistro kind of space. Would you say that was the original vision? Did it evolve at all? Is that really true to what you're originally thinking? My restaurant sold tons of fried foods, but what a hassle dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease. Restaurant Technologies handles everything end to end. They deliver, filter, monitor, collect, and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system reduces the fire risk with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. As a customer, you'll save 10 to 15% on insurance premiums and even get bonuses for new customer referrals. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started. I know from my experience that growing your business can mean big-time logistical challenges, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Believe me, when I owned restaurants, this was a challenge for me. Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers from Uber's courier network pick them up at your place and deliver them right to your customer's door. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com.
Yeah, it was being in Danny Meyer's restaurants and just getting exposed to that culture of taking care of people and people feeling seen and heard. I wanted to create a restaurant where that was very tangible. So it's in an old house that we redid, and especially being named after my grandmother, I wanted that kind of.
Oh yes.
You're in a safe place. So the kitchen is open. A nod to North End Grill, where I first worked. I loved like seeing the guests. But the past, like I can turn around and shake a hand, say hello. So it's very intentional in the way that we designed it and laid out. It's not a huge restaurant.
How many seats do you have?
We probably have 40 to 50 if you have the bar, and then open kitchen, there's a chef's counter, so you can sit right there.
I was going to ask you that next if you do a chef's table. You've got a chef's counter. Okay.
Which I really encourage the cooks to eavesdrop. They say, man, those fries look good, but they didn't order fries. Hand them some fries, make those connections with these people and create an experience.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Wow, that's so great. Fantastic. Let's talk about let's start with culture, because I was going to start to ask you about your team and what you look for, and we'll get to that. But what would you describe the culture of Elvie's to be? Every restaurant has a different culture. And if you were to ask all of the team that one question, would there be a common thread among all those people where they all agreed, yes, this is what we are about. This is what we feel when we're here? Describe that culture for us.
I think when you're thinking about all these things, it's really important you come up with this big picture, but you boil it down and you keep nitpicking of, okay, what does it really mean? What does that really mean? And you get down to this one thing. And so we started out like, all right, we're going to do it differently. We're going to take care of our staff because we take care of them. They can take care of guests.
For sure.
That means providing gym memberships, therapy resources, really investing in the way we design the restaurant, the way we design the menu. And I've actually been thinking about this a lot the last couple of weeks. And I think that the bottom of that is the culture is to enrich the lives of our employees and our guests. And so I'm thinking,
I like that.
If that is the culture, then we hire and fire based off of that, the way we approach the wine list, the way we try to educate our staff on wine. And it's told us when we're doing lineup and we're telling them about this wine and whatnot, I'm like, okay, this is the chance for you okay, they like Prosecco, but we have this Cava, explain the difference. They might be into it. You have now enriched their experience and you gave them something to enjoy, but also you gave them a knowledge of an ingredient or a wine. So it really boils down to enriching others. And that's the community, the way that we are involved in the community, the way that we treat our employees and the guests. And so I think it's important if you don't name it.
Yeah.
You can lose sight of what your culture is.
That speaks volumes to your commitment to everyone you mentioned. But if we're talking about the team members and the benefits that you provide in terms of balance and wellness and all the things that will help them feel cared for, nurtured, we have an opportunity here, but it's not just a job for a paycheck. It's more than that. And that's a really powerful culture. So thanks for sharing. Let's talk about hires and your hiring philosophy. What things do you look for in someone, and what skill sets or what do you think they should bring to the table to work at Elvie's?
I think it's definitely, you have to buy into that culture. Our values have to align. And I look for somebody that wants to take that extra step to learn, what is the difference between Prosecco and Cava? It's not just bubbles. They're both bubbly, but
yes,
what makes them different and how can I share the difference and connect? Same with in the kitchen. Yeah, we can get tomatoes over here, but I can also call Van, the farmer, and we get these tomatoes. I need somebody that's curious and interested in those tomatoes and wants the best thing that they can get. So yeah, I think it's just like that edge on wanting to learn and grow. And then I take it on as my job to provide that opportunity for them to step up into that role.
Do you hire for experience or approach and attitude or both? Will you take on someone with no experience you just see something special in and then you send that person along the way? There are some really special, magical people that just bring some sort of an essence to the job, but they've never worked in a restaurant before, but you can just see it and you can just sense that this can be a great fit with some training, with some direction, with some shadowing perhaps of some of your best people. So that happens in your organization, huh?
Oh yeah, I'll take on, I think in the industry call someone that's very green. No experience.
Mm-hmm.
They have no bad habits. I would take them with a good attitude over a lot of people most of the time. Because if you want to learn and you're okay with making mistakes and learning from them, I can teach you and show you how I could, but I invite you into our vision on what I think, how you become a great chef.
Yeah, you just answered my next question about your leadership style. You just told me without me asking you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about the framework of onboarding somebody new? Does it start with a job description and monitoring performance and perhaps there's a performance view into it? Do you have recognition and rewards programs? Is there that formal structure? Is it a little looser at Elvie's? How does that work?
It's pretty loose. I would like to get more structured. And I think that's where we are right now as a business, as we grow, because for so long I was just in it. I was cooking. If a dishwasher was out, I was washing dishes. I was very much in the business, and I'm now working on the business.
Great.
And yeah, and I don't have a ton of experience in that. And so I'm reading every book I can get my hands on and trying to streamline and make those processes. Because I realized once I was ready and able to take a step back, it was very hard because I had expectations that I did not define clearly, and therefore it could be interpreted very different ways. And so if somebody did something differently and I got frustrated, I didn't really have anything to fall back on because I never clearly defined what I was expecting.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of that right now.
All right. Are you having any issues with staffing? Much of this industry, that is one of the biggest challenges right now, obviously, is staffing. And it's not just people, it's great people that you want to keep in your organization and not have high turnover, which obviously costs a lot of money. Where does that fit into your situation?
I think I would say overall, even through the pandemic, we are in our 4th year. We have not had a huge issue with staffing.
Great.
I think because we pay our people well, we create this culture, we create opportunities, we try to enrich their lives, and they have friends that they talk to that work in the restaurants that are, I think, waiting for a spot to open up. So I think if you build that strong culture, I interviewed a lady yesterday and she was looking for a second job. She started one. I don't think they're paying me what I deserve. And I said, what are they starting you out? She's like $11 an hour. And I was just like, I've never paid anyone $11 an hour. I start you at 13 just for 2 weeks to see if like you like us and we like you. And then I bump you up, immediately and continually. And then I was just like, what is minimum wage? And I was like, $7.25, I think, in Mississippi. And I was like blown away that people can and do pay somebody that. Yeah. And then you expect a quality job or a great product. And it was just that. I was just like, man, if you take care of your people, I think the investment there is tenfold.
That is key information right there that I want the entire audience to hear. And that starts with the foundation of culture, but it's the enriching people's lives, not just giving them a job. And the word on the street is going to be there. And people are just waiting for a better opportunity to open up because the grass clearly is greener in this type of an approach to the business. And that's beautiful. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's great.
Go ahead. I would say if you have trouble with staffing, and I think a lot of people I think one of the big faults of our industry is people don't view their position, whether server or line cook, as a career. And that can be from business owners and the general public. Oh, what are you doing while you wait tables? Like, you must be in school. No, day one, this is my career. This is how I pay bills. This is how I pay for my kids to go to school. I set that up day one. This can be your career, and I will treat you like it is your career, but you have to act like it's your career. And therefore, that's how you retain employees. If you treat them like, oh, this is just temporary, then you're just basically telling them, I'm expecting someone else in a year or two to roll over. So I think that's also just a general attitude towards, and I think one that could radically change this industry if business owners thought of their line cook as this could be a career. They can sous chef, not just the owner as a career. And so I think that's a big shift that needs to happen, but I think it is an important message to your staff.
Absolutely. Hospitality the foundational word of our business, is it not? Everyone has their own definition, and I would like to ask you what that word means to you, and if you impart that to your team to approach every day with that word in mind.
Yeah, I think hospitality is someone feeling known or seen. There's all sorts of technology and reservation systems where, all right, this Mr. Stewart came last week and he had a steak. We can make a note that his steak was a little over. He likes it under. He had this one red glass of wine that he really likes. Somebody, if he walks in, you can, hey, would you like that same glass of red wine? Instant connection, instant guest. They know me. They remembered me. I am known here. And I think that's like truly taking care of somebody, and being hospitable is seeing what their preferences are and what their tastes and what they like.
That's a personal point of pride in giving the recognition, because I believe everyone wants to be recognized. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be served. And the service is a big part of hospitality also. But it also has a marketing effect to it where if you feel special in a place and it becomes your place, how many people do you tell? Word of mouth, and then online reviews and the social media world and the internet, and all that has such a powerful effect on a restaurant's success. And if you think of every single guest as the most important guest and treat them as such, that is hospitality, and that just speaks volumes about your restaurant. I think that that's spot on. Is there a typical day in your life, Hunter? Or what's a typical tomorrow? What's tomorrow going to be like at Elvie's for you? It's every day is different, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is different. Summer with kids all over the place.
Yeah.
And we're also working on restaurant number 2.
Yes.
So
I wanted to ask you about that as well.
I'm learning that role, but typical. And recently I wake up, I try to get like 5:45 or 6 before my kids, and I can just sit, I can have my coffee, I'll read, and I'll generally look at my day, like a quick calendar, just because if I don't, then in my head, I get really stressed. I think I have some meeting here and I think I need to be over there. Am I needed in 2 places at once? So it's almost just like it kind of calms me down. Like,
I get that.
It's a little planned out, manageable. Then we'll get our kids up and she goes to school across the street, take her to school, and then I'll head into the restaurant. Nice. And I like to do some prep. Maybe if I have a special or an idea, like a sauce or something, the morning hours are a pretty great time for that for me at Elvie's. And then lunch gets rolling, have an amazing staff to do that. And I'll have meetings. Recently, I've been heading over to the Mayflower, which is our second restaurant, and checking in on that because we're like moving kitchen equipment in hopefully today or tomorrow. So that's really close. And then this past week, it's been manager meetings and some employee meetings of really making sure that culture is maintained. Because I feel like I lost a little track with the Mayflower. I just went all in on that.
I know what that's like. Yep.
And I just let it float. And I was like, oh, we're good. And then looked up and I was like, man, this is not exactly how I would like it. Spending a couple hours being intentional with employees, managers, and checking in on things that they need and being clear on expectations and needs or things that we need them to help with.
So you can find a balance. Is that challenging? Because it sounds like the bandwidth gets a little shrunk. You're opening up a new place and you got to spend a lot of focus on getting that place right, but then relying on your team, obviously at Elvie's, to keep the show rolling over here to your expectations. And then you've got a growing family and it's, wow, how do you balance all those things?
Yeah, I think it's what I'm learning has helped me is communicating to clearly what your expectations are and what needs to be done, what the tasks are. And it's hard because I started out is what I wanted to do. I want to open a restaurant so I could cook my food. I don't really cook that much anymore. So
do you miss that?
I'm like, man, I do. And it was really hard after our second kid. Like, man, I'm like grieving this. Like, I love this. I miss the Friday night lights, the brown time. But this is very important. also, and I can only raise my kids once. And and so it's switched. Instead of creating dishes, I've also really enjoyed creating managers, creating healthy employees, training them so I can catch a breath, step away, and give them a spot to step up. It can be hard.
Yeah.
It's I think a lot of groundwork of being intentional and really digging into the lives of the people that work for you.
Yeah, I think you said it best. You're setting expectations and you're holding people accountable to certain goals because you can't be in every place at every time. And everyone must be part of that uplifting the organization and allowing you to spend time where time is necessary for the big picture. And that's not called delegation, that's called empowerment. And I'm a huge fan of that. So I'm really glad that you also mentioned that. I definitely want the audience to differentiate those things. Being a true leader and recognizing talent, empowering people, and helping them build your business. And that's a really powerful thing. So that's awesome that it's happening. How about financial responsibilities? Do you have to spend much time? Do you have someone else that's handling that? The key performance indicators and menu costing and inventory and food and beverage and labor costs and all those things that are critical for any restaurant to succeed. Do you take a hand in that or is someone else doing it?
So if I'm honest, I do not enjoy any of that. I like, give me the tomato and the fish and give me the people and I will thrive in the kitchen. So when I opened Elvie's, I knew I needed a business partner that could do that and do it well. And so I partnered with a friend, Cody McCain. He's front of house, office, Excel spreadsheet wizard. He took all the menu recently and just went through all the invoices and broke down a pinch of salt costs this month. But he enjoyed it. That was fun for him.
Yeah.
I'm you're insane.
Speaking my language.
I was what are you doing? And then he'll come to me with numbers and whatnot, and we'll have meetings and talk about quarters. So I am involved. I would also like to be more as I take steps back out of the kitchen. But I have my business partner. That's definitely his expertise.
How often does the menu change? Are there specials that you add from time to time that are just on weekends or busy times that are off the menu? Or does the menu change seasonally? Does it change more frequently than that? There's the creativity part of what you do, right? How often?
Yeah. We probably change the dinner menu every other month.
Yeah.
Just because the seasons in Mississippi are really odd. There's not, there's not a fall. It just goes hot to cold, back to hot to, so it's hard to say seasonal. I just get with the farmers, and tomatoes are hot now. Okra is right after, and then that's really how we dictate the menu.
And your guests appreciate the freshest of the fresh at the right time.
Yeah, there's definitely between 6 or 8 entrees. 3 of them are going to stay the same. Or the rest will change. And there's a couple of apps that are staples. We'll change the rest, and that's how we approach it.
Yeah, it seems like it's very much a seafood concept. What about Mayflower? What's that menu going to be like, and how do you differentiate the two restaurants? What are the main differences between Elvie's and Mayflower? Whole different direction or any crossover?
So Elvie's, I would say, is pretty seasonal, very farmer driven, very Mississippi, intentional, thoughtful. What are farmers growing? What are the traditions of the South? Foodways. All that kind of gets filtered into the menu at Elvie's. The Mayflower is an 86-year-old restaurant that's a very iconic staple in the city. And it's dubbed, we found all these old menus, and they had them upstairs that they didn't use. So just boxes and trash and stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
And on the menu is Mississippi's oldest seafood house. So their thing is very seafood, started by Greek immigrants. It's actually where comeback dressing originated. There was 2 restaurants in the community, and I think one of them created it, and they maybe not together with the Mayflower, but that one's no longer. So Mayflower is the last standing restaurant that is like the original comeback dressing, which is a story that is really untold but crazy. 'Cause, like, you go anywhere and they have comeback on a chicken sandwich or a salad.
Yes.
Um,
Wow. That's a marketing hook in and of itself. And the history that speaks to is very
yeah,
powerful. And the
yeah,
community at large obviously is very familiar with that restaurant.
yeah. So it's
Awesome.
definitely,
Yeah.
when I opened Elvie's, I wanted, it was classic. Wasn't really going to chase the trends. And I joked, I want Elvie's to be the next 100-year-old restaurant. 4 years later, we have this chance to take over an 86-year-old restaurant. It's in downtown Mississippi, in Jackson. Has its struggles, flighty, a lot of businesses are leaving.
Oh.
So
Mm-hmm.
this, and now I've been thinking about, okay, I'm going hard on the culture of Elvie's. What is Mayflower's culture? And at first I was like, oh, they don't have a culture. We can start from scratch. Then I realized, no, everybody has a culture. It's whether it's a good culture or a bad culture. And this one it has had some issues. So it is now our chance to, and like we use the word enrich at Elvie's, like reconcile is this word that's come up a lot when I think about the Mayflower. In a city that has a lot of struggles, in an area of town that has a lot of struggles. And if you want to be honest, talk racially, a city in the South that has a lot of struggles. This is a space for us to change that and start a new story and tell the stories of the cooks and the city and downtown, and really hope that there's like this spark and this energy that starts to permeate downtown and lift the city of Jackson up.
That's a rebuilding, rebirth sort of beautiful story. Inclusivity, again,
Yeah.
all around the common, breaking bread and food and that sort of thing in the
Yeah.
culture. That's fantastic. I love that story. That's great. Let's shift gears a little. You are a James Beard Award finalist in 2024.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And I know that you were a semifinalist in 23. How does
Yeah.
all this happen? Were you nominated by someone in the industry? And what is that sort of decision-making process, and how it's very competitive because it's such an illustrious award to win? And what a
Yeah.
powerful thing to say that you were a semifinalist and now you're a finalist. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of those things when I started cooking in college. I was like, I want to win a James Beard
Aspired
Award.
to that,
Like,
even back
I was
then.
like, yeah. So it was wild to be at the award ceremony.
Yep. Tell me.
I thought I was going to pass out. Like, literally, I was like, I wonder if anyone is up on stage on a stretcher, because I'm about to lose it.
The adrenaline was flowing, right?
Yeah, it was
Awesome.
weird. So they have gone through a lot of changes, and they created a committee, I believe, of a couple hundred people for the region of the South. And I think they have those people nominate, or this is my interpretation of, and I guess they're like, oh, this chef is doing great things. This chef is doing whatever. And they have this list of all these names. And I guess the name, and then you also apply. You do apply, and I think there's like a video interview that you submit.
Okay. Yes.
And then I imagine, okay, out of these 300 people, the 20 most common names are these, and let's look into them. And then those are the semifinalists. When you hit the semifinalist stage, there's another committee, a lot smaller, maybe a dozen or so people for each region. And they go out and like undercover, like a food critic, and they eat and dine, and they score it on some sheet. I'm assuming, I haven't seen that. I don't know what that looks like. Top 5 scores become finalists. Then they do that process again with the top 5, and then the highest score wins. So I think in the past it's been called like a clubby like favoritism, or like, I like this person, so let's give them an award. And I think it's moved to more of a, what are these standards and these things that we can calculate and have a top score or something. And so that's my understanding of how the process works. Yeah, we went to Chicago last month and went to the ceremony, and it was awesome. I met so many great people in the industry, and yeah, just a fun weekend to be there.
That is fantastic. You're an inspiration to the industry for sure, and to your people that work at Elvie's. What's your opening date planned at the Mayflower? Is that you made it sound like it's imminent, like we're moving
Yeah,
in the equipment and we're gearing up. Like,
almost.
what are you looking for? What's your timeline?
We were shooting soft openings on August 7, 8, 9, 10.
It's coming up quick, yeah.
Yeah, we're down to equipment gets in, call health department, get all those last minute
The
things.
checklist, yep.
Could be around then, maybe a couple of days after, the week after, August, middle of August. We should be bowling.
So you mentioned the soft opening. Do you have a guest list in mind of influencers, prominent people in the community that can spread the word, Chamber of Commerce type thing? What's the plan there? That's a powerful marketing opportunity for you to have a soft opening, have your people trained, put their best foot forward, deliver an amazing experience so that suddenly the word is out, the Mayflowers.
Right. Yeah, and
See that coming.
this has definitely been more of a delicate soft opening because the Mayflower has such a tie to a lot of people. There's like people, there's a Friday night crowd, there's a Saturday night crowd, and those people go every Friday, every Saturday. They're a lot older than me. It's that generation. They've been going for 40 years. It also has a huge political crowd when the session is meeting downtown, legislators. So we thought through, we could have a legislator night. We could have these like the crew that is like the regulars, like Friday night, that knows the history, knows the family that previously owned it. And then also there's a chance for us to invite like more of our generation that has never been there, doesn't go downtown anymore, expose them to this new restaurant, because we are changing a lot. At 86 years old of not maintaining a restaurant, it can look pretty rough.
I'm sure.
So there'll be we're updating it, as we've been saying, and adding a lot of really cool stuff. Actually adding stuff that they used to do that they quit doing. So we're
Love that.
bringing back to life some of the stuff. Some people are gonna be like, this is one of those being, it was BYOB forever.
Okay.
We're gonna put a bar in. So
Yep.
One of the regulars gonna be okay with buying a $12, $14 glass of wine when they were bringing their $25 bottle of wine, but I've fallen back on, and it was life or death.
Yeah, for sure. It has to evolve. Yeah. Some traditions have to remain. You're modernizing, you're upgrading equipment, you're refurbishing, but then you walk in the door and there's still old memories, perhaps, for people that know it from what it used to be. And it's that very strong balance that I think you're going for. And I think you're going to hit it. That's tremendous. I wish you the best of success with that.
Thank you.
Let me ask you the last question. If you were to go back in time to the start of your career, what advice would you give your young self, or even an aspiring line cook now who is the person who is trying to figure out life and am I going to be a chef, or where can I go in this business, in this career? What advice would you give that person?
I think gain as much as experience. I think that's one of the things I love doing at culinary school. Every 3 weeks, I had a different professor to watch, learn, pick their brain. But if you don't go to culinary school or can't go to culinary school, work at different jobs, get different exposures from different restaurants. I lived in New Orleans for a summer while I was in school and did an externship. Worked in a restaurant, and then my cousin was opening one. I was like, I've never been part of a restaurant opening. That's interesting. So I went and worked over there for a little bit. And I went back to the other restaurant, and I'm not saying work here 3 months and flip flop around, but if you're moving cities or if you want to keep one job, travel, ask your chef, hey, I'm going to the next big city 3 hours away. Do you have any restaurant? Do you know any chef there? Can I go stage? Can I go eat? That's one of the things that we do. A server is going somewhere, like, all right, here's $100 to go experience this, to get exposure to something else.
Yeah. You can bring back the best practices or things that you've seen that enhance and up-level your organization too. That's great.
I
Awesome.
think exposure.
Yeah.
Because not only you're just going to learn the things that you want to learn. I learned a lot of stuff of like how not to do something working with a chef. I do not want to be that guy. I do not want to manage like him. I do like this and this, but you can learn what you want but also what you don't want to do. And I think those are both important.
Absolutely are. Hunter, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks for your experience. Thanks for your stories. Thanks for the inspiration. And again, you're doing amazing things in the culinary world and opening up a new restaurant. I wish you the best of success with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for being a great guest. Thanks, audience, for tuning in. That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. We can't wait to see you in the next episode. So stay tuned and stay well. We'll see you there. Restaurant Equippers has served independent food service operators nearly 60 years. They have low everyday prices and huge warehouse stores in Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. Shop for your restaurant equipment at equippers.com or call 800-235-3325. Their experienced specialists are standing by with thousands of name brand products available for immediate store pickup or shipment. Restaurant Equippers is a family-owned business just like yours. Give them a call for all your equipment and supply needs or visit them at equippers.com.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.